Hello, welcome to the Baron's Game Room. I'm Aaron as always, and I definitely got enough sleep last night. I think I kind of need an easy video too today, so I'm going to do this one that I've thought of doing for a while, Kung Fu Zoo. Kung Fu Zoo is a game from WizKids by Charlie Price. It's for 2 to 4 players, and it's a silly little game about animals at a zoo at night fighting each other, represented by flicking some dice around. So Kung Fu Zoo is one of those games where the whole game board is just sort of the box itself. Yep, go ahead and pick this up, and under here is all the pieces you need for the game, and then pop this right back on here, and let's get going. Regardless of which mode you play, each player is going to need to pick an animal and take the dice associated with that animal. There are 2 main game modes in this, Cage Battle and Points Battle, so make sure after everyone collects their little animal card and dice that everyone has it set to the proper side. And then let's go over Cage Battle first. After deciding however you want which player is going to go first, player 1 is going to take one of their dice and they're going to place it on this dot here. You'll see there's a dot in the center of each edge. They're going to take that and then they're going to one finger and just flick their die in. And then second player will do the same thing, but on the second player's first turn, and first turn only, they have to have their dice touch a rail. Doesn't matter which rail, but it has to touch one of the rails before touching any other dice. So I can't just directly flick this cheetah into that gorilla. I need to try and bounce it off the wall first. Whoops, I messed up there. Anyways, let's go on. After this, each player is going to take turns flicking one dice in at a time until all 4 of each player's dice are on the board. Once you're done getting all your dice flicked into the ring, either these are the ones remaining after I accidentally flicked a few into the holes, what you're going to do on your turn is you're going to pick one of your die that is either face up or on one of its sides, body up or whatever, and flick it from the edge of the arena. You cannot pick up ones that are feet up. Those are considered stunned, so they are left on the board unable to be used until they get rolled over. But depending on which one you pick up depends on where you can flick them from. If you pick one that is heads up, you'll see you can actually flick that from anywhere you want on the rail at all. Wow, that was really bad. But if you pick up one of the ones that are like body, back, side, butt up, those have to be launched from one of the 4 dots back into the arena. Players take turns going back and forth until a player has no more usable dice. That means all of their dice have either been knocked into the holes or they are feet up. Hey, that's just the basics. There are a few more rules to go over, such as each animal has their own unique special ability that you can use once per round, and special rules such as whenever you knock someone into these holes, they call these the cages, whenever you knock a die into there, you immediately get an extra flick. How that works is, if you end up flicking your dice in and one gets knocked into the hole, man, I'm bad at this today, you immediately get to take an extra flick. If it's during the setup where you're flicking dice in, you don't flick a new one in. You will pick up one from the edge and flick it back in. Otherwise, the rest of the game, it's the same. Anytime you flick someone in, knock them in, you can pick up any one of your dice and flick them back in, assuming you have one you can flick. If all your dice were feet up, then you wouldn't have anything to flick. Last little rule for Cage Battle are the penalties. If at any point you end up flicking your own die outside of the arena, you just lose it. It stays out of the game. And if you ever end up accidentally knocking an opponent's die out of the arena, they get to put it back into the arena wherever they want, face up. Keep in mind that all the rules I've gone over so far are just for a 2-player game. There are some slight differences for 3 and 4-player, which we'll go over later. For now, let's go on to Point Battle. In Point Battle, what you're going to do is each player is going to take their 4 dice, and they're just going to do like you're the setup for Cage Battle. You're all going to flick a die in, and the next person is going to flick a die in, and so on and such. And you do that until both of you have launched all 4 of your dice into the arena. Then, whatever dice are still remaining on the table, some could be knocked in the holes, of course, as you're playing, all the ones that are still remaining on the table, you'll add up their point value, and then you will compare the difference. So let's figure out this point score real quick. So hilariously, I accidentally ended up getting 11 on both characters, but let's change it for a second. Say this one was this. There. Now instead it's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, meaning there's a 2-point difference, so Cheetah gets 2 points. You will keep doing this over and over again until a player adds up to 21 points. This mode is kind of like a little like simplified Crokinole, which is kind of fun. It does have the cage rule, just like in Cage Battle. If you end up flicking your dice out and you knock another dice into the cage, you can immediately flick again, although you do not have to flick again with this one. For example, say the only dice you have out in the arena right now are like really high rollers, like a 5 or a 4. You don't want to risk rolling them lower. You can choose to not flick. You can just leave your dice out. The penalties in this one are the same as they are in Cage Battle, which I actually have a bit of an issue with. If you knock someone out, they get to put them back in face up. And that seems a little harsh because that's like the most points that a die can be. I personally think that the rule should probably be instead, if you accidentally knock someone out of the arena, that they just get to put it right back in on whatever side facing up it already was. But hey, I didn't write the rules. And yeah, that's all you really need for the 2-player rules on Kung Fu Zoo, but there are a few differences for 3 and 4 player, as well as an optional rule that I guess we'll go over real quick, because might as well. First off, we'll talk about the All Valley Cage Battle rules. Personally, this is the only rule set I use when I play. I always play All Valley rules. Whenever you're doing the All Valley battle rules, what that means is animals being feet up, stunned, is no longer a thing. It kind of is. But in the standard rules, if a dice is feet up, you can't flick it anymore. And if at any point all the dice you have are either knocked in the holes or feet up, you lose. In the All Valley rules, that's not how it works. You have to knock all of your opponent's dice into the holes. What changes, if it's feet up, whenever you flick it, you have to flick it with your pinky. So, quick example of that, if I wanted to flick this die right here that is feet up, I would pick it up, I would have to launch it from a dot, just like the body part ones, and when I flick it, I have to flick it using my pinky. Man, I'm doing so bad at this today. I did mention there were a few differences in 3 and 4 player rules, so let's hit those real quick. First off, in the 3 and 4 player version of Cage Battle, you have to play using the All Valley rules, always. Another really important change to the 3 and 4 player rules is that each player will only be using 2 of their dice at a time. The other 2 will stay off to the side until both of your other 2 dice are defeated. Once both of your other dice are knocked into holes, then you can flick these into the arena and start playing with these 2. Again, you play until only 1 player has a die left in the arena. And then last, we have the 3 to 4 player point battle rules, which simply state that each player ends up only playing with 3 dice instead of 4. And what you do in this one is, after all players, get out of here. After all players end up flicking in all 3 of their dice, you will add up their points. No comparing the difference like you did in the 2-player version. You just get exactly what you rolled, and you play 5 rounds. Play 5 rounds, and then whoever has the highest score up to 5 rounds wins. It might seem like I'm not super into this game, but that's not true. I actually really do like this game. Although it is probably the dexterity game that I end up bringing out the least these days. I think this is one of my most easily recommended dexterity games I have for a family. Absolutely, because I understand people can't be dropping the money it takes to get a Crokinole board. And tumbling dice, which I talked about a while back, that's also like 80, 90 bucks or something like that, which is still pretty expensive, especially for a casual family looking for a fun little game. I know I did Clask recently, but Clask is only 2 players, although there is that 4-player version. But this one is small space, doesn't take up nearly as much space as something like Clask. It's a tiny little box. Oh, it's tiny, but I mean like average size this way, and it's skinny this way. So it's not a very big box. It's not a lot of components. It's a really easy one to play with kids. I think it's a really great family game to play and all that. I do think some of the rules are a little iffy or whatever, but hey, it's an easy game to kind of play how you want. Like I said, I always play the All Valley rules. I don't like the game ending as fast as it is just for us to flick until they're all feet up or whatever, which I will admit can sometimes draw the game out a little bit, but I don't know. We're okay with it. We like playing it that way. Also, I just like the whole pinky flick rule. That's kind of fun. As far as the game modes are concerned, I pretty much always play the Cage Battle rules. We pretty much never play the point battle ones, but it's a totally, viable rule set. I said it's kind of like a dice version of Crokinole a little bit, which is cool because obviously I do like Crokinole. And it's, a fun little way to switch it up. It's definitely a faster game than Cage Battle. Kung Fu Zoo is pretty cheap, only being like, I think, 30 bucks, easy to find online. It's a cute little game, very easy to play. I think it's a super awesome, family game night kind of thing to sit down with. Yeah, Kung Fu Zoo, y'all, it's Parent approved.